Be blessed by the divine. Wonderful seeing you all today in this session where we are going to discuss about origin of man and biomagnetism. First, let us take the subject origin of man. Let us try to understand what our Guru Yogiraj Shri Vethathiri Maharishi proposed as the theory of origination of man. In this, we are going to discuss the exact origin of man, the sixth sense that seems to separate the man from animals, and how consciousness prevails in human beings in the form of cognition, experience, discrimination, and helps us to grow from faith to understanding to finally realization. We will also understand specific gravity. This specific gravity is very unique and uniquely defined by our Guru Swamiji Vethathiri Maharishi. First, the origin of man. We have needs. We have needs to survive, to clothe, to eat, to protect ourselves, to shelter. We need protection against enmities of other living beings. We have needs to grow. We have needs to live. We have needs that needs to be identified and satisfied either by us or by our parents or by the society. We also have the need to be loved and to share our love with other living beings. We love to have respect and give respect. And finally, we also want and need to realize who we are, where we have come from, where we are going, and what is God, and who is God, and how did He transform Himself, or how did He become what He is today, and how did He create so many different forms of living beings. Providence provides for all of these needs. Providence provides. Therefore, it is providence, is it not? Providence has everything that we need. It gives us the shelter, food, need, gives us relationships, friends. It gives us all that we need to learn about ourselves, about nature, about the providence itself. It is functioning as consciousness within us, with which we are able to realize who we are, what we are doing, and how we have come to be who we are today on this planet Earth. It gives us our origin and our destiny. All of these are waiting to be realized intuitively. Providence functions as intuition itself. An ape-like animal perhaps, and a lion-like animal perhaps, must have mated according to the theory proposed by our Guru Swamiji Vethathiri Maharishi. A man-like offspring was born. The offspring then mated with the mother ape, and the human race began to develop. Humans began to multiply in large numbers. Eventually, the ape-like qualities reduced and human-like qualities developed. In the process, Providence imposed 3 rules. These are the 3 self-imposed rules. Until then, these 3 rules were not prevalent, were not imposed heavily on the planet Earth. But once the Providence produced or transformed itself into human beings, there were 3 self-imposed rules. Animals of different species do not mate. Even if they do, fertilization do not occur. Even if the fertilization occurs and if the offspring is born, it is sterile. So therefore, further propagation of the same cross species may not be possible. You can see it today, which is why apes and humans do not mate. Even if they mate, they do not fertilize. Even if they fertilize, an offspring is not born. Even such rare scenarios, two species mate and an offspring is born, and that offspring happens to be sterile. We have it in the history of the evolution of this particular world. Even in recent times, we have seen similar cases. The sixth sense is very unique to human beings. Providence decided that human is the last step in the evolution of itself, in the transformation of itself. Evolution perhaps is not the correct word to use. Transformation of the universal almighty force into various life forms and finally evolving as human beings or transforming itself into human beings is the correct way of thinking about this. We can clearly see that there is perceptual ability for the sake of living in the minds of all living beings. For instance, a lion will not eat, let us say, grass. A tiger will not eat fruit because it cognizes that the fruit or the grass is not edible for it. This is for survival purposes alone. These are the very basic requirements. But man is able to utilize his power of perception to distinguish between what is good and what is bad for him, not just at a physical level, at a functional mental level, but also at a spiritual level. He is able to believe in a set of concepts, such as, let us say, the Vethathirian concepts. A dog cannot believe in Vethathirian or any other philosophy for that matter. Man is not only able to believe and have faith in a set of theorems, he is able to develop his understanding. Consciousness is functioning as the mind, as the sixth sense, helping the man to grow from having faith and develop understanding. Not only is he able to understand, he is also able to realize as intuition, as inner vision, as inner realization, the truth behind what has been taught to him. He is able to question it. He is able to use the power of intuition, which is functioning within him, as the transformed state of the consciousness itself. Conscientious consciousness is functioning in a dynamic state in his mind, helping him to grow from faith to understanding to realization. In the process, we begin to realize the greatness of consciousness itself. Consciousness is available everywhere. It is available in every Panchabhuta elements. It is available as, or it is functioning as pattern, precision, regularity, even in the formative dust particle. The almighty force with plenum, time, force and consciousness, due to self-compressive nature of the almighty force, evolved into the formative dust particle. Even within the formative dust particle, there is precise amount of divine fluid that is entrapped within the formative dust. The formative dust begins to spin at a precise manner with a specific pattern, and as the acceleration increases, the divine fluid begins to overflow in a specific manner and transforms itself into Panchatan Matras. All of these are divine drama that is taking place with a pattern, a precision, regularity. Humans began to realize this. They saw the natural elements around him. They saw sun, moon, water, fire, and realized that all of them are functioning with a specific law of nature. As they began to wonder at the evolution of nature, they began to grow even more understanding into the designs of the divine. And they realized that the divinity itself has transformed itself into various living forms. Initially, it was only the belief, it was only faith that somewhere there is a power beyond us. There is rain that is coming, there is water that is giving us the sustainability on planet Earth, there is sun that is shining its rays on our earth, there is air that is giving us breathing capacity, there are materials on earth, materials that are there. They saw all of these Panchabhuta elements and began to question there must be a force which is primordial, origin, which is almighty behind all of these natural phenomena. And then they realized that the only true way to realize himself, realize the truth behind all these wonderful natural evolutionary states, is to reduce the frequency of the mind from an active beta stage above 14 cycles per second down to alpha 8 to 13 cycle, and from there down to theta 4 to 7, and again further down to delta 1 to 3 cycles per second. As he developed various techniques for reducing the mental frequency, he began to live one with the divinity. Thereby, the consciousness began to reach its full potential, and he called this way of living yoga. Yoga is about living one with that super consciousness. As man began to realize the super consciousness is functioning with a precise, unfailing law of nature, he also began to realize that he is a fractional consciousness of the total consciousness. Swamiji says this in a very beautiful statement. There is no effect without a cause. The effect is innate in the cause. This is the law of nature. The results manifest in time, depending on the nature of the deed. Time is a characteristic of the primordial force. When we sow a seed, we will reap the reward in the due course of time. Some seeds will sprout within a few hours. Some will take a few days. Some will take a few weeks. As they sprout into plants, the plants will grow into trees over a period of time. And these trees will begin to bear fruits, and they will produce seeds which will once again germinate, and the cycle of life continues. This manifestation of results in time, depending on the nature of the deed, depending on the nature of the seed, as in this example, is inherently present, is innate within the seed itself. There is no need for us to program it with an artificial intelligence into the seed. Intelligence, consciousness functions as the precise, unfailing law of cause and effect inside every seed. Therefore, inside every cause, every action, every thought, every word, every deed of ours is innately embedding within itself the precise result according to the time as needed by the nature in the cause itself. Therefore, we must become conscientious. We must practice yoga, reduce the frequency, go to the subtlest levels of the frequencies, realize who we are, and live one with that Almighty force. That and that alone is the purpose of our birth. Let us now explain specific gravity as proposed by our Guru. This is a beautiful, and I will personally consider this, or I do personally consider this as the most brilliant concept proposed by our Swamiji. Specific gravity, as physicists know, is relative density. They say they count the number of electrons, protons, neutrons, or the density of this within a given volume, and say, okay, what is the mass? Right? Let's say 1 liter of water contains 1 kilogram of weight or mass. Therefore, specific gravity is 1, around 1.99 something. With relation to this water, with relation to the water, they then count the density of other liquid forms. Usually this is used for liquid calculations. But Swamiji did not limit his identity, his theory. Swamiji did not limit his concept of specific gravity to counting the volume versus mass. He went beyond that. He said, everything moves according to its specific gravity. He even proposed that the fact that heavier, larger mass of formative dust or akashic subatomic energy particles such as protons and neutrons forming the nucleus of that particular element that is born, namely, let us say, an atom in this example, is according to specific gravity. Let us try to understand this from a different point of view. The almighty static state, due to its self-compressive surrounding pressure force, due to its own pressing nature, surrounding pressure force nature, compressed itself, a fold is formed. Fold is further compressed and it starts to spin and becomes the formative dust particle. And within it, there is specific quality and quantity of the divine fluid, of that mighty divine fluid that is entrapped within that particular formative dust particle. And therefore, it creates the first definition or the concept of specific gravity. Specific amount of gravity, the almighty divine mighty fluid, is now present within the formative dust itself. Now imagine many such formative dust particles come together. All of them will start to form an akashic cloud, otherwise called as an electron. The subatomic energy particle also contains within itself a specific quality and a quantity of that mighty divine fluid. And as the formative dust particles get ejected from the electrons, they bring along with it, as an overflow mechanism, the specific amount and quality of the mighty divine fluid that it is entrapped with, which then transforms itself into magnetism. Therefore, as the mighty specific gravity begins to reduce or begins to alter its characteristic, namely quantity and quality, the electron slows down and becomes proton, and they have to go to the center because the specific gravity is now changed. Within the functioning element of an atom, suddenly now you have a proton and an electron. Likewise, as gases are formed, as hydrogen is formed, as oxygen is formed, helium is formed, these gases also have their center. Whichever is heavier element, whichever is slower spinning, will form the nucleus, whichever is lighter and faster spinning becomes the satellite. Likewise, you can see heavier elements are going to the center in the universe, in the galaxies, even in the solar system. The sun is the heaviest element in our solar system. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, all of these are spinning around the central sun. Moon, which is a lighter element in nature compared to the Earth, becomes a satellite of the Earth. You can see similar arrangement in the molecules, in the atoms, even within the atom, according to our Swamiji, the same specific gravity functions with an unfailing law which says the rotation of these particles causes the heavier particle to come to the center, and the lighter particles are in the periphery. Therein lies the fantastic divine magnetism at play. It is the same magnetism that is functioning with the specific gravity inside man as law of nature. It regulates the mind, it regulates the actions, words, thoughts, and deeds. It gives us results of our actions in the form of pain, pleasure, peace, or ecstasy. And we, therefore, become the product of our own mind. To God, the great player, every life is a pawn on the board. He moves them, removes them, blesses them. Who among the born is capable of questioning his actions? We have to believe, we have to understand, we have to realize. Realization is the ultimate end goal of every human birth. The Almighty Force has transformed itself into millions of life forms over billions of years of transformatory stages to finally arrive as you and me. We are no different from that Almighty Force. We are a fractional concept of the totality called divinity. As the fraction demands, the totality supplies. It is ready to supply everything that we need, from our physical need to mental need to social need, and finally the one and the only need with which we are born, self-realization. This marks the end of the first part of our session. I want to ask you, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself before we move on to biomagnetism. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.